Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Queen's Hall Winifred Atwell Auditorium. We are making every effort to ensure that your theatre experience is safe and comfortable. Please take this time to listen to the following announcements. Eating and drinking are not allowed in the auditorium. Smoking is not allowed in the building. Flash photography, audio or video recordings are strictly prohibited. In case of an emergency, an announcement will be made. You will immediately but calmly proceed to any of our 4 exits closest to you. 2 exits are located on the left and right lower hall. These exits will lead to the east and west emergency exits. Once through these exits, you will be required to move away from the building and assemble at the muster point furthest end of the south car park. The other 2 exits are located on the left and right upper level of the hall. Individuals exiting through the upper level will be required to move along the corridor, down the front stairwell toward the lobby area, and through the front entrance to assemble at the muster point to the furthest end of the south car park. In the event of an earthquake, if you are inside the auditorium, you are advised to lean forward or hold on to the seat in front of you or next to you. Please remain in your position. After the shaking has ended, the usher will guide you to exit the building as quickly and safely as possible. If you require any assistance, please seek the attention of the Queen's Hall's ushers. They will be more than willing to assist you. At this time, please put all cell phones on silent. Thank you, and again, welcome to Winifred Atwell Auditorium.
Good evening. Welcome to our huddle here at Queen's Hall on stage. It's deliberately devised this way. I felt that I'm putting the audience on the spot. I'm putting the audience on stage. A lot of times you come to shows, you're out there. Now I'm putting you on stage. So you had to come to the belly of theatre and walk onto the space. And I thought that was something that we're going to be a little enlightened about. How these things operate, look up and see the lights, and see yourself as a showpiece. I have crafted this huddle because last year I did this show for the Emancipation Support Committee, which I've done for, this is my 5th year. It's called EWAAFRIKA. It's about celebration of African beauty. And we have always sought to storytell through the process of the showcase. And I would always give it a little subtitle. The first year I called it the Nubian Renaissance. The second year I called it Sankofa Style. The third year I called it the Folklore. The fourth year I called it Conscious Threads. And this year I called it A Flair for Freedom. But because of last year's incarnation, I thought we needed to talk about why did we come up with this term conscious threads. So we need to go into the belly of the whale and we need to do a pre-talk. And as a result of the success of that pre-talk, I said, I need to do it more than one day. And I feel like if, in a kind of way, people have pushed me into a position where I think I'm a griot in a kind of way, some kind of ancestral something telling me that take it on your back and go with it. Let's talk a little more. So I did 3 days. I was scared out of my wits because I am challenging myself, but I'm also challenging you to want to be here, challenging the speakers to want to say yes, and in a way using my leverage to make sure and hope that they do, and they did. And I'm very grateful for that. Honored to have them. 3 days of powerful speakers is a feat for me. When I go home today, I can lie down and feel like there was purpose in my life. We have 2 mandates here. We have 2 mandates that I want to align. This year's theme for Emancipation Support Committee is igniting African consciousness. And that's where the word flair came from, because, you know, I have a little literary bent, so I say flair. Let's do the flair for freedom, based on the flare of the fire, but also the flare of the skirt, because I'm doing this for a show and playing on the homonym flare, which is the flare for fashion. So that's where we came up with it. So This is our flair for freedom. And it brought me to the point, am I free, or do I have free moments? Is freedom that point when I feel a little unadulterated joy? Oh yes, I'm free in that moment. Or is it something that you are constantly in pursuit of? So I said, let me get some viewpoints on it from different backgrounds, different biographies, and therefore we share with you, and we leave here a little more provoked, actually, in thought. That's all I can do. I can introduce it. And I want to introduce it, and therefore I decided it needs to be recorded. It needs to be heard beyond the stage. So I now have to say I'm grateful for people who have supported. Crossroad Cranes is streaming it, which is fabulous. Let's give them a round of applause. Selby Sambury is doing a filming that we're going to be able to use from a document. That's him right there on the mic, on the camera. Let's give him an applause. Queen's Hall came on board fervently and allowed me almost to do whatever I want. I always come to Queen's Hall and disrupt the space. It's never, let's do it the way our stage is designed. A proscenium is not just for us to shout out there. Let's be on the stage. And the staff at the Queen's Hall have been marvelous. I am also working under the auspices of the Emancipation Support Committee because it's piggybacking on that show. I'm also working in alignment with the Basel Convention Regional Center, which is an organization that has just taken me on as stakeholder consultant, and their purpose is about finding ways for us to eradicate hazardous and toxic practice in the carnival, creative and design space. Hard task to follow up on, but we are going to do our best. I also am so thankful for the work of National Carnival Commission. So they are part of the setup of the space. And yeah, so I have done my duties. So I wanted to start off by, freedom is a word that could be, when you look it up in the thesaurus, you get liberation, you get emancipation. We have Bob Marley's perennial line about emancipate the mind from mental slavery. But I want to ask you, the audience, are you free? Do you feel bouts of it? Do you feel free, period? What is freedom to you? And I'm throwing it to you first, because that's what I did. I put you on stage, not just because you're sitting on a stage, you're on stage. And so I would love to have a comment or two. Then I will introduce you to my guests, and then we start the conversation. So you just raise your hand. I love the rush of people wanting to talk. Yeah, there is one.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. For me, freedom is choice without limitations.
Okay. Freedom is choice without limitations. Let's keep going. I'm taking about 3 or 4. Last time nobody was talking. I said taking 3 and then 10 people talk. Yes, hands are going up.
It is a mental concept where there are no walls and you're able to be true to yourself and then be true to others.
Thank you.
On a personal level, I would think freedom means being able to take care of my family and myself without ever studying the cost or the ramifications of the decisions that would need to be made by being able to do just that, take care of the family.
Yes.
Richard, I'm so proud of you. Let me say that first of all. You are such a pioneer, such an icon.
This is Janelle Bontier speaking, okay? If you know about Tempo, she was the face of Tempo for years. Okay.
And you are the face of fashion,
okay,
for the whole Caribbean. And that brings me to my interpretation of freedom is the freedom to have cultural expression. Cultural expression that has to do with not just our history and where we've come from, but who we are now and where we want to go, and to have the freedom to decide what that could and should be. So definitely, to me, freedom is cultural expression.
Okay, and we have one more. And I should have asked you to stand.
Good evening, everyone. Freedom to me is being able to be free to say that there is no freedom. There is an illusion of freedom. I maintain that. There is an illusion of freedom. What we have is a systems and constructs, if you want to put it that way. Because at the end of the day, if we do not follow the law by the letter, we can find ourselves in problems. So, what is freedom? Why are we believing that we are free? Because why? We can get up and we can come here in this audience and talk to you. No, we are not free. Simple thing as saying something out of line here today will show you how much you are not free. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
If I may, what am I to hope for as I reach the midlife mark? When we talk about freedom, dare I dream to be free in the last years of my life? That is what I want to know for myself.
Okay. Okay, and now let me introduce it. Yes? I tell you that's what happens.
Good afternoon. I wasn't expecting to say anything about, freedom and wherever it is. I'm a kind of radical kind of person. But I, the person, don't believe in Jesus and Christianity for years. And I find sometimes I'm not free. Because if I tell somebody, I don't believe in Muhammad, I don't believe in Jesus, I don't go to church, I really don't pray. You understand? They start to rebuke. Oh, I rebuke you in Jesus' name. So I am not free to tell anybody in my feeling there is no God. But when I do that, everybody skin their face up, or they feel there's something wrong with you because you believe. I don't believe in God over 50-something years. And I'm still alive. I'm 72 years and going strong, and I would never believe in it. Thank you.
Thank you. I was now saying, so was it from birth you didn't believe, and because you ain't looking like you're over 50, girl? So, okay. So tonight is looking like it's going to be a spirited conversation. If I thought last night was one. So I'm starting to my far left. Camille Selvon Abrahams is a friend, longtime friend. She is the founder of Anime Carib, which is an animation festival, a Caribbean animation festival, an award-winning animator herself, and she runs the department at UTT, and so that's Camille Selvon Abrams. Next to her is Precious Blackwell. Precious Blackwell works at the BCRC, which is the Basel Convention Regional Conference. She's an environmentalist and a technology expert. Next, you can't clap for one and don't clap for all. Next is Robert Young. I don't know nepotistic song, he's my brother. Okay, but he is the creative director and founder of The Cloth, and he uses his fashion as social commentary in a way, and one thing we share in common is that we believe in a Caribbean aesthetic, and so I am very proud of him. And the next speaker is Akila Jaramogi, and I just love this woman. She flew back right now this minute and came from the airport here because she needed to be on the panel. I had to give her a round of applause for that. She is a person that she's first of all one of our Americans, and she believes in living one with nature, and she makes the most beautiful accessories after reforesting the area in Fonsamans, which is her home and her base, and she makes this fabulous ecological inspired jewelry, and she's a conscious thinker. Thank you. Lisa Fay, some people would know, definitely. Her silks, her hand-painted silks have stood the test of time. Everyone wants a piece, a scarf. She's taken part in most of our shows. She was a journalist, I think, for over 25 years. And she just gave it up and said, I'm going to see what my baby. And her baby was her career in fashion and in creating beauty. Yeah? Gillian Goddard is a profound thinker and has latched herself onto the land and is a farmer of cocoa in particular, and has made some cross-cultural connections across the continent and even in the US with her cocoa forming organizations that create economic independence, and so based on her growing of cocoa and an alignment with the land, which is what I love particularly. Thank you. So, panelists, we had some fabulous sentences here. I took note of some of them in my own shorthand. I'm not sure if I could remember what I'm seeing here. Choice without limitation. It's a mental construct which you have to be true to yourself and true to others. Taking care of yourself and your family without pressure. Okay? Freedom to have cultural expression of who we are now and forging a way forward. And they had no freedom is an illusion. And if you can't say you don't believe in God and say it comfortably, you're free. Okay, so I am going to start with this, what I do. I didn't mini anymore, and everybody, he started with me. I'm going to start with Akila. Because I know her consciousness is what can almost bless the proceedings this evening, so I want her to start. You just talk.
Hassan.
Yeah.
Hassan. Good evening. Good evening. This is my freedom. Omi tutu, ona tutu, ile tutu, ori tutu, tutu lare, tutu ariku babawa, calling my ancestors. I ask for guidance and protection, cool head, cool space, cool heart, cool energy. I call them in the space as I claim my freedom. We claim my freedom from the oppressors. We claim my freedom by throwing off the shackles that they tried to force on me and my people. So I go back to my American roots, coming here in 1816 as free blacks, settling in South Trinidad. So my parents always, that was always part of me. We didn't come here as enslaved people. We settled in Trinidad as free blacks, and that is my freedom. I held on to the Legacies and the stories as I continued to grow, and living in the forest in South Trinidad, leaving South and coming to Port of Spain, I still held on to freedom. Downtown was not a nice place for me. Beetham and Laventille and John and Maloney, I wanted the forest. So when I met Takuma, he started to talk about the river and the hills, and that was the maroon side of me. And if you know who are maroons, maroons are liberated Africans who seek their freedom by running away from their master and setting up homes or settlement away in the forest. And I choose that, and that's my freedom. And 42 years now, I manifest that in the forest of St. Anne's, Fonsumon. But being there, you needed to be a little more free, right? Because you're in the city, just suburban setting there, right up the road here. I could run home right now. You need to survive. You need to find a way to live. So, by planting the land, bringing back forest cover, That was my healing, that was my freedom. Encouraging others to come in the space. Takuma and I would beat drums. He was a Rastafarian, and we'd beat drums. We'd have bingi, and bingi, naya bingi is that to all black and white oppressors. And we'd beat drum and cook and bubble lighter, tree stone, and all the stuff. And that was freedom to me. Raising my children in the forest, going to the river, just walking distance from city, bustling city. Yeah, that was my freedom. And then in bringing back forest cover now, because of forest fires and all the ills over the years that took place where people failed to appreciate the land, I show them here what the earth is fullness, and we need to pay homage to Mother Earth. So we planted trees. But in planting trees, it was not just about trees to bring back forest cover, but trees that can give me seeds and beads and food and all the stuff. And then I got into jewelry. And then I noticed going and buy stuff from China and Japan and Indonesia and all the stuff, that wasn't cutting it. I needed something that can tell a story, something that can bring that earthy feeling, ecological, energy into what I do. So any way of peace, you feel in the power of Mother Earth with you, not plastic bouncing back, or you're feeling it. It's like spirit walking with you. That was my choice, to choose to plant my trees and make my jewelry from beads and seeds. And here I connect. I've connected with Robert over the years, Gillian over the years, Richard and others. And I am proud to be here with you all to just share that energy. And again, freedom. Freedom to choose the way I live, the way I celebrate, the way I connect with my ancestors. That is freedom. Reclaiming, restoring, healing, pushing away all those negatives that were forced upon us, all those negative patterns that had us in shackles and still have a lot of us in shackles. So I said the first part of healing is getting your name. So I went and I paid and I got my name changed, Akila Taliba Jaramugi. So you don't call me a name and when you open my passport you see something else. So I wanted that part to be honest with. So all my children have the African names. And then the way I choose to appease my ancestors, that too was taken away from us. So freedom is reclaiming, restoring, healing. I went straight into the root from whence I came. And I say, thanks for the path, for choosing Orisha as my way of celebrating, healing, praying, appeasing, living. So everything I do, this is part of my passport. I walk with this anywhere I go. I walk with my calabash, it could be in wherever. I just came back from Tallahassee, I just came back from Apalachicola, Miami, all other parts, everywhere I go, I just start. And I feel comfortable with myself. I could be in front of the priest, whoever I can come to, let's all do what we have to do. And I feel comfortable. I don't need your permission to praise my ancestors. This is my freedom. This is my joy. And this is why I am here today to share with you. Ashe.
Thank you. Now staying with the land, she smiles. How do you find your source of freedom or liberation in the connectivities that you have crafted, which are many, and how do you find joy in doing what you do, using what you could call it, that your symbol is through the cuckoo, because it's much more than that you do?
So I guess I will start with as a child. When I was a child, I struggled with other humans. So I spent most of my time in the hills of Diego Martin, in those days from 2 years old I could wander the streets. And I would walk up to the river, and I would spend the day talking to the fish. There were guppies and wabines, there was zandolis, there was zanji, and we would catch fish, we would climb the mountains. I wonder sometimes now, because I'm always looking for mapapis where I am, I was barefoot in the hill. Never thought about it. We were bathing in waterfalls that we could no longer bathe in because they've been taken over by humans. And it's hard when I describe to people that that is how we lived. So then I went into the world of humans, the world of what I call civilization, which is not a compliment coming out of my mouth. So I entered civilization and completely forgot that I used to live in a pomerac tree. I literally would go up in the tree with books and food in the morning, and I would hide from chores and being cold, and I would eat. I lay down on the crook of the thing, I would read, and I would spend the entire day rocking the top of the pomerac tree from the time I was about 5, because I was reading early, till I was probably about 11. And so for me, that was an intimate experience of freedom that when I was 30-something years old, actually probably 40, and by that point I had 2 young children, and I was started to say, I need to get in touch with nature, I need to learn about nature. I had completely forgotten. And I think when I think about freedom, I think it is about remembering. For living beings to remember who we are. It's a game, it's a journey, it's a trial. And so in the end, when I look around and I think, for me, freedom is the ability to be inside of the diversity of this amazing planet and to follow the mandates of the planet. And there are 2 mandates that I think about a lot. This is a planet that loves expansion and loves diversity. So the more we can create diversity, different things, different experiences, different people, and then secondly, the more we can create equality in diversity. Because the silk cotton tree is no more powerful than one bachak. And so the more we can create diversity and this incredible playground of wonder, the closer we can get to being a human animal, which has a very particular role, like all animals do, in the expansion of this planet towards diversity. And when we forget that is when we come across what you were speaking about, Richard, in terms of what we call toxicity, what we call violence. Because we are here to speed up diversity, but to speed up diversity in a way that everything is equal. It's not the same, but it's equal. And there is no power that one form of life or one subset of life is exerting on another subset. And so I have no right to entrap the grass in my yard. I have to think and listen with it. I have to examine the rat in my roof, the bat flying through at night, the wabine that jumps out of my aquarium and starts crawling its way back to the river, as wabines can. That is what I am here for, to increase that celebration. And part of the way I like to do it is through chocolate. And so I don't know if it's possible to get the chocolate that I
Yes, we
brought.
can bring the chocolate. Here's chocolate to share with you.
And we can talk at length about why chocolate. There are some humans are mind, body, soul, all kinds of things. And part of it is how can we express our diverse identities? And that means that I can strategize. Thank you very much. And yes, so I'm going to share some chocolate with you all. because one of the ways I like to express how the world shows its way to us is what we put in our mouth. Every time we eat, we are eating another form of life. We're not eating the rocks and the minerals. We're getting those, but in a translation through life. So when we eat, the wonder of the fact that we are eating things that are thousands of years old should really be there with every bite we take of food. And so chocolate somehow allows people to experience that. The chocolate melts at the human body temperature. And I always tell people, it doesn't melt at the iguana body temperature. It doesn't melt at the cockroach body temperature. It melts at the human body temperature. The cocoa butter in it goes from solid to liquid in our mouth. And so there is a magic, the way that feels that you are changing the form of something in your mouth. So I'm passing this chocolate around.
Hold on. So because of theater rules, we can't eat on stage.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
true.
yeah. So
We'll save it for after.
yeah, we'll save it for after. But the
Okay.
gesture is what counts, and that's why I insisted that you do the gesture.
Yeah, so I'm going to close off, but what I want you all to think about and remember, if you remember nothing else about what I say, is the joy of diversity, the joy of difference, and the equality that is possible that we were born to. We were literally born into a world where equality in difference and expanding difference is the mandate for every being and non-living being on this planet.
Thank you. I want to go over to my colleague from BCRC because I want her to now talk about how she personally finds freedom and liberation working. She is an environmentalist, as I said, and she works in technology. And because of the mandate of BCRC, inform us how you are going to apply your quest for freedom or your expression of your liberation in the process of your work.
Freedom for me is being able to pour back into my community and by extension, our country. So it's important for me through training and technology transfer, which we specialize in at the BCRC Caribbean, link what great responsibility there is with freedom. There is a level of responsibility that is attached to how free we get. Let me paint a scenario here. We revel, Carnival, Monday and Tuesday, which is our greatest form of freedom outside of music. It's a way we express ourselves through the colors, through the embellishments of our costumes, through that space that we could just be free to enjoy ourselves. We don't have to worry about work. We're in a space where we're able to just move our bodies the way we want to. And on Carnival Wednesday, Thursday, the Friday after, we rarely ever think about what happens to the tiny bits of jewels and the feathers and everything else that is attached to Carnival in that sense, after that freedom has taken place. So freedom for me is edifying. I like edifying persons. I like expressing myself through helping others with things that may not necessarily be something that they grasp easily, putting it across in a palatable way. And just to piggyback off of what some of the other panelists would have discussed with respect to what we eat, after these byproducts of Carnival, after we revel, would have gone into waste streams and into our landfills, and they eventually bioaccumulate, or for lack of a better word, just grow along our food chain, and then we ingest something. With that freedom that we were expressing on Monday and Tuesday, it has now come around full circle to now affect us on a personal level. So freedom for me is being able to show my fellow persons in the country that while we do have that freedom, consider the responsibility that comes with it. Consider how important it is for us to, while we are free, let us maintain a world that we can be free in. If we destroy it simultaneously, is that really freedom? It's not really freedom. So freedom for me is ensuring that I have a sustainable place to be free. I like spending time with family and friends, but most of all, I like spending time by myself in a space that is clean. I'm a clean freak. I like cleanliness. I can't be free in a space that is not clean. So we can't be free in a world that is toxic. Can't be, yes, we're free and we inhaling plastics that burning, and tires that burning, and feathers that have dyes in it, that has synthetic materials that are broken down years, and we're thinking, that's not going to affect us until it does. Because gone are the days of where we are saying, oh my God, we're hearing that the climates are rising. The sun is hot. It is hot. And if we don't sit and think the cost of our freedom versus the cost of what it will take to reverse the things that we have done and left unchecked, I think it will be hypocritical of me to be an environmentalist and not use the platform that I have at BCRC to express how important it is and how much I do push for freedom, but more so the responsibility that comes with that. And I think it starts as small as a forum such as this, where I can open someone's mind to just start being sustainable at home. Because we can't carry it out there to the masses if we don't implement it for ourselves. So I think it's a sense of feeling accomplished in the sense that I've helped persons to see, yes, freedom is one thing, but being responsible and being safe with what you do with that freedom is of the utmost importance as well.
Wonderful. There's a famous existentialist that says that freedom begins on the other side of fear. And I think a lot of times people misread what fear is, and it just is terror or being frightened. But fear manifests itself in ignorance. It manifests itself in many ways. And I think what Precious is raising there, from the individual choice, the ethics need to start applying itself. The responsibility has to start applying itself. And it's a little onerous, I think, but in that existentialist view, that burden is born with pride, you know, and you need to be sustainable. As one of our panelists said yesterday, part of the joy of her freedom is crafting a world for the others who are coming after to live in. And it almost had her crack when she said it, most of us, because it just brought it into a true realization that what we are doing here is not just for us, it's for those who come after. And so I'm going to move from that grounded, more scientific, but it's more technological. I'm going to Camille Selvon. How do you use digital space and animation to express some of these freedoms of which we speak?
Yeah, so a few decades ago, I don't want to tell my age, but it's quite a few decades ago, there was something called Saturday morning cartoons. By show of hands, anybody remember that? I don't expect these young ones to remember that. You're not going with me there. All right. Saturday morning cartoons was a particular time in the morning when the big institutions knew that the parents had to do the mother has to do the cleaning and the housework. So they put cartoons on from 8:30 to 12:30. Then you have lunch. Very strategic, and the kids will sit there and look at television. Two of my favorite animations were the Flintstones. Who, by show of hands, can remember this? Not But you remember the Flintstone, right? So Flintstone is from the past, right? The dinosaurs and the way back then. And then another favorite was the Jetsons. Remember the Jetsons? Right. We're getting a little braver with showing our age, right? I'll just wait for the beauty queen to sit. Welcome. So those were two of my favorites. And it's only a few years ago I had this realization that I saw no black people, black cartoon characters in the past, Flintstone, and I saw no black characters in the future, the Jetsons. So our children are sitting there and taking in content and they're not seeing themselves. They're not seeing themselves in the past and they're not seeing themselves in the future. And it's only recently I realized this is why I do what I do, because I need for us to see ourselves. I need for our children to see themselves. I need for them to see themselves. Do you know what is one of the top trending children content now? On YouTube? Unboxing. Unboxing. These kids will know what unboxing is. A young child with a toy opening up the box and millions of children looking at that. That is content now. Millions of children just looking at them unpack a toy, and guess what? Who are they going to go back and ask to buy the toy? That is what it is. It's not about entertainment. It is about buying merchandise. It is about selling to your kids through you. So before I talk about freedom, I'll go to freedom now actually. And for me, freedom is about the ability to speak with my language, for my characters that I'm designing to look like me, and for my accent to still be there. I am not going to put an accent that is American, English, British, German. It is a Trini accent that's going on there. And one of the things that made me shift to that way of being was I studied animation at Goldsmiths University in London, and I won the Royal Television Society Award for students in the London region that year. That's a big award. It's now, the patron was the then Prince of, who is now the King, right? So he was the patron of that award. So a Trini girl win the best animation in London. But how I got there was I had, a long time ago, right? A long time ago. But how I got there, I had, coming down to the end of my 4 years at Goldsmiths University, I have this idea about a film, a short film for my final film, and I was like, oh my God, if I go put a Trini voice in these people thing, I'm in the British school, what? I want to get a good grade, I want to make sure, my degree, I want my film to show in places, do I need to, I need to get a British person to voice over. And then I made a decision, I said, you know what, no. I dragged my cousin from his kitchen and I said, I needed to record in your Trini accent. This is going to be on my film, pure Trini accent, without asking permission, without even thinking. I used a Trini voice. When I won the award, I was called all over to be in all kind of conferences. And in those conferences, I was the only woman, because you're talking digital media, you're talking animation, not many women are in this field, right? I was the only black person. I was the only black person with a Caribbean accent. So, triple, right? And there was one particular screening at the Canadian High Commission in Trafalgar Square, and they screened my film. It's called Masterpiece, The Masterpiece. And when it was finished, it's only 5 minutes long. When it was finished and everybody was sort of talking, a British woman, old British woman, she was old, right? Mm-hmm. Came up to me and she said, darling, You know, I was reading the magazine when your film came up, and I heard that accent and I had to raise my head. That was it for me. If she did not hear my accent that is unique, she would be reading her magazine. But because it was so unique and so different, she raised her head. Because, so we talk about diversity. And one of the things with diversity is what is creating the chaos in the world today, because we are saying, accept me for who I am. I'm not even waiting for you to accept me. This is who I am, right? So we have to do, the freedom for me is the ability to speak in your language, be who you are, keep your accent. There's a particular project, my business partner is in the audience, where's Roxanne? Roxanne is somewhere here. There's a particular film, a feature film. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but you will hear much more about it. And it's a feature film that is being funded properly. It's an animation. And all of the actors, 90% of the actors are Caribbean or local, right? That is intentional. I called up Rudy today. Is it Rudy? You all know the Rudy guy? There's a particular character where he talks like, you all know that one? I was writing, so I'm also writing the film. And I'm seeing Rudy in this film. And I called up Rudy, you want to do this? Immediately, right? So what I'm saying is that we have to be intentional about this. Because we can't think about, well, okay, what if we don't get an Oscar? What if we don't? No. We have to give that diversity that you speak of, that Gillian speak of, that is so important, because that's what the world needs. It needs that, and we need to break the barriers. We need to break the glass ceiling. Let us see films winning Oscars that have our voice and that look like us. And my intention is to do that with animation. Thank you.
I remember, Camille, when you were doing the first year of the animation, you said, Richard, I want you to come and talk to the animators. And I came, and the animations were spectacular. And I said, but it's not looking like we, because the Japanese animation was the hallmark animation. And you know, as Naipaul says, we are the greatest mimic men. So if you see our Japanese animation done by Trinidadians. So I remember saying, no, we had a talk, and one time I came in as well, and I brought actors in. I brought Penelope Spencer, and so that they can see and hear the voicing and mimic the posturing and so on, because that uniqueness to me is a way to pursue freedom. And you know, I am the strongest advocate for what I call the Caribbean aesthetic, and I'm going to take my plug on that right here, because that's what I think is a definite claiming of a freedom that we must appreciate, applaud, and give accolade to what we are and who we are in the way that we are. You know, I had a personal experience of that, and I'll just share this before I bring in the two designers. So this is all charted that way. I was in Montreal. I was doing Montreal Caribbean Fashion Week, and they carried me to a English-speaking station, and they had a little corner that they call a celebrity corner, whatever that is. So I was sitting there, and I was resplendently in cloth, gray applique, I remember. And the floors of the building, they were glass. So I'm sitting there, and the floors were there, and then everybody was looking at the interview in their rooms, and then they started coming out onto the balcony, which terrified me. Because I'm talking, it's looking like a movie, 3, 4, 6, 8, and they were staring down at me. And in that moment, I recognized my responsibility. I said, they are looking at me not because I'm speaking what they thought I should be speaking about, but they were in awe of my confidence about speaking my truth. I spoke about what the Caribbean is to me, how it applies itself to our costuming, because I think our fashion is a costuming of our civilization. And they were all there, and when I finished, they applauded on all these levels. And I use it as a mark, because then I realized the position that I am. I am not a designer of clothing, but I'm a designer of this way forward for Caribbean creatives to make sure that they celebrate usness. and stop being mimic men of metropolitan ways. So with that, I lead into my brother, who I know shares some of it, but in his own way. So he will talk about that at this time. The cloth.
I don't know what to say. I normally don't know what to say. I can just say what I'm involved with right now, other than the cloth. I am working with some designers in Africa, and we are setting up a Pan-African Fashion Cooperative Alliance. This is kind of like modeled after what Jillian is doing, because she has the Chocolate Rebellion, which is Pan-African and Caribbean. And I'm still talking about it soon. It's not launched yet, it will be launched sometime in November. But just trying to think about how we could make clothing, thinking about the world we live in, thinking about how, this is long view, thinking about how the people who make clothes are treated. Thinking about like what has happened in Trinidad. I was talking to my business partner. I'm in a strange situation. I've put myself in a colonized position now. I have a white business partner and I battle with that on a daily basis. But the resources of money is not here. Or it could be here, but because of how you just do this thing that does make clothes, or all your creative and all your handle money, and all the artist oppression that is attached to people who do creative work, that happens here, that there is no support. The government, I don't even know if it exists now, the fashion TT, they get small enough money just to know that they can run the place and pay the rent and pay the staff, but they can't do anything else. So it is a setup. So I put myself in a situation of a person who was completely against people telling me what to do, because I do even so much. I do even drive. I try to drive without traffic lights. Right? I just drive through St. Barb's and thing because it's not no traffic, because you prefer to go there. And I could forget what I'm saying because go down tracks. So this project is thinking about, because Trinidad had one time 5,000 small factories that produce clothes, right? The World Trade Organization allowed China in, and we started to import, and we're trying to figure that out. But the space of somebody working who have the skill to sew and produce as a technology, as an old ancient human technology that you all should learn to, is an old technology of mending things together, pieces of, right, and covering yourselves. And I always propose that we should have a workers' own cooperative for production. Right? That's freedom. And from the perspective, I ask the question, what would my ancestors want for us? Right? If I were to, you could use ancestors like people who don't, if your ancestor would have died, so all their patterns of control and thing would have been gone, and they knew what happened to them and what the world should look like. And ask the question, how would you set up a thing? From people who were brought in forced servitude, indentureship, genocide, similar to what is happening in Gaza, has happened here, but is not recorded by a cell phone. So we have had we live in a place where violence is continually happening, and how do we change that situation? So work-owned cooperative will be attached to it. We will try to penetrate markets, but also penetrate our own markets, because we spend billions of dollars a year, US, on buying clothes. But if we get 1% of that, but which we don't, so it's to navigate the environmental end, because, like for instance, one of the projects we try to work on is West Indian Ceylon cotton, which is the rarest cotton in the world, the hardest cotton to pick, because it chooses to grow in a way where when it's flowering, all the plants could flower at the same time, but it is ready at a different time, so you have to pick it by hand. It's a short tree, so you have to bend and pull it. Barbados is the only place that grows it now. We only grew 110 bales, which is 55,000 pounds of cotton. The next longest staple cotton, Egyptian cotton, they go 200 million bales. But that cotton that we grow in the region, that can only grow here because of the light and because of the air and the soil and all that, sells for between $100 US a meter to $150 to $200 a meter wholesale. Right? One of the projects the cloth is trying is to see if you could get access to it, because the contracts are old colonial contracts, that all of it is exported to Japan or to Europe. We have to buy it at that price. But it could make a real Caribbean product. I went to India in 2016, and I went to India in 2018. I just came back from India recently. There is a hand weaving. That's another technology, that's a human technology of weaving, but because we have a history of enforced servitude in the internship, that kind of work feels like painful. And part of the work I always talk about to do is we have to work on grief. The denial that is 150 years or 200 years ago slavery happened. That it doesn't touch me, that's a denial, but that's part of grief. Grief is you deny when you're grieving. So as all over the place I pull. So we can't do this work, and you can't do this freedom search without having ways to grieve your disconnection from the world. You don't go to nature. You are nature. You are in it. This is built. You see, the ancestor is not only the dead person, the dead animal. The dead animal is in the plastic. Mm-hmm. That is my ancestor too. Right? So, on behalf of the dead things, the living things, the things that we don't connect to, that we even if we don't even know that we are connected to it, you don't even have to recognize it. It is so. You are connected to rock. You are connected to air. You are an extension of this place. Even if you don't know it, I don't know it, but I accept that it's a fact. And because of that fact, I have to grieve my disconnection from not noticing it. And I invite you to do the same thing nearly on a daily basis. Because that's the only way you could really find yourself, so you could notice your freedom and try to facilitate freedom for other things to be. Right done.
So in the sourcing of freedom, it is also with a responsibility about other people finding theirs. Which in a kind of simple terms, I mustn't impose on you, and I just think that I meet that on a daily basis in driving. And I don't know if it is because our mother was the kind of woman she was, because I didn't think she schooled us and I didn't go to protocol school. But I see people driving and there's a lack of consideration, even walking on the streets. They walk without consideration that somebody else is walking there. So that is why we have the bouncing into each other that sometimes might even cause harm. Because you can't be just in your brain and then turn around with your elbow out and knock somebody, so it is that sense of, I don't know what that was, a courtesy that I have that I think and some people say, Richard, why don't park the car there? I say, why would you think I could park the car there if I'm going to that space? I have to find a space to go there. My assumption that space belongs to the people there. So I don't park there, I find space somewhere else to come. A simple thing like that, to go into an organization, if I was going to the Basel place, I call to ask them where I could park. I don't just pull up in front of the place, I don't know the hierarchy of the management and thing and where they will park. It is just a consciousness of somebody else's space is what is important in the quest for your own freedom. It has to be that, it can't be just you're living recklessly in the world. Because I think sometimes people think freedom is reckless, I think when Precious was talking about Carnival, and yesterday made a distinction, Wendell made a distinction between fun and joy. Find the joy in Carnival, because the fun promotes a recklessness and a self-indulgence, because it's just about you. And you pick up your thing and, look how nice I'm looking at you. That is all you're doing. A lady almost threw me off the stage. When the cameras were telling me, Richard, move, so we want to see her. So my little privilege, because people know me a little bit, I want to go in front for the stage. She see that. And she almost threw me off the stage. I was planning to just lie and decide the stage until Wednesday. Because if she had threw me off the stage, the shame of that is not being thrown off the stage. The shame is climbing back on. All right, so we're going over to Lisa now, because Lisa has an item that people, when you see it, it looks like easy little thing, it's pretty and cute. She has her own pins because she chose a particular way to do it. And that is where she accesses her freedom, I would imagine. So I wanted to share a little bit about that and how you got to a space of being more responsible in your practice.
Well, I am a textile designer, and I'm an artist, basically. And so I paint each of my pieces, literally paint. And when he's talking about the pains, Richard would have known for many years, it's not a glamorous, easy process, but it's how I express myself, and it's how I'm able to share my work with others. So when I say I paint each one, I lay my silk on the ground, I squat for hours. And as I get older, it's harder to get up than it was when I did it before. But I've had surgery on one foot because of it, etc. And I'm not saying this to complain. I'm saying that I do this, and I do it for the number of years that I do it, because I came to a point where I also paint on canvas, but I wanted to produce beautiful pieces for people to feel beautiful. So it's not just clothing. It's just not just that you're throwing on. So we could all buy clothes, oh gosh, think of fast fashion. We could all do that. But I think that everyone is special, and somewhere in it, I wanted people to understand how special they were by wearing something that felt luxurious, that felt soft, that felt meaningful, and I was able to share my art with them that way. So you share your art by, of course, looking at pieces on canvas, which I believe is like there's art all over my house. But if you can feel it, how many times have you put on a garment and you're all sequined up and you're feeling nice and it's tight, but you ain't comfortable at all. And you ain't feeling feminine either. And you don't want to take off them Spanx because everything is all just like, why not just embrace the body that you have and wear something that just flows all over your natural, beautiful body that changes in time? So Richard would have mentioned that I was in media, and as we talk about freedom, I was one of a bunch of people who decided, let's start talk radio, freedom of speech, saying what you have to say. Did it for 26 years. It was lovely, it was like dynamic, it was exciting. I was in my 20s. But at all that time, I was still an artist. I was still a textile designer, but providing textiles for other designers. And sometimes you'd see your textile not really doing what you wanted it to do and what you felt, but I had that job that I loved and paid a salary every month. As someone had mentioned about how free are we to a large extent, I think Carla was talking about the bills and paying family, seeing about your family and so on. So I did it, and I enjoyed it. I don't know if it's the creative in me or what, but the same thing I felt of freedom of speech, which I totally believe in, everything just began to get like noise, just noise in my head. It created a kind of anxiety. I just wanted to express again on textiles, because that was a medium that I enjoyed more than any other form of art that I did. And so I took the leap of faith and said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to be a full-time artist. And I'm going to design the clothes that I want with my clothing. And everybody thought I was mad. Because of course, we have the child to feed and the bills and everything else there. And this is all on a dream. And the freedom to do what you want. And if I took on what everyone said and did not allow myself to come back to what I liked. So I now live in the bush, I would say. And so I'm amongst the birds. I see the sea. I'm always afraid that a snake will come out while I'm painting, because that's where I paint and that's what influences my pieces. Hence all the bright shades of colors, or even if I do muted colors. Everything is the impact of what's around me. And bliss, when I tell you, I'm the happiest woman in life right now where that's concerned. But that freedom to take that choice, the barriers that came along the way, that you were mad, you want to be an artist full-time, you don't have bills to pay, like, wake up. But everything flowed. And I think once we come in touch with ourselves and what our purpose of being here, and understanding that I'm very much into energy, so I believe that whatever you do, you have to have a kind of so people say, you don't sew? No, I don't sew. I can sew. Do I sew? No, I don't like it. Plus, I believe that someone else could earn a living from what I'm doing. So it's a flow. I'm an artist, I design it, somebody else sews it, she earns a living. My seamstresses will say, I'm not really so sure if we should do it that way. And I'll say, well, talk to me. Because I want it to be all part of a sisterhood, a joint understanding of who we are. So I've created a space where it's not just a boutique, it's a place where women come and we just talk. I always have coffee, tea, wine in my shop, because, and at the end of the day, it just comes back to the same freedom of speech, where women are feeling comfortable to talk about things that they used to feel uncomfortable about. And they actually discuss these things with women they don't even know. So you would walk in my shop and somebody else would walk in my shop and someone would get a hot flash. And automatically one pulls out a fan for her, and another one I say, okay, the AC is not working well enough, I have a fan tucked away, and we all start to talk about girl, and then of course the wine flows, and then who doesn't have wine, we have tea, and it's just it's a place to feel free with who you are. I want you to feel the freedom of, it's okay if you have a belly. It's okay if you find your arms. Like, women criticize ourselves so much, and we need to be free and happy with who we are and not hold on to what society says needs to be who we need to look like. And it's funny because I can't even blame men, because we speak that nonsense amongst ourselves. And I think it's important for us to remind each other that you're beautiful in every skin. And if I can contribute that by giving you clothing that makes you feel nice and not have to put on these Spanx to go out in it, and you're flowing nicely, well, that's where I think the freedom is, and that's where I think that we have to let go of what society has become. Because I think once upon a time it was like that. And then just things come into life. All of a sudden, we look at everything exterior and what everyone's doing all over the world, when we live in a beautiful island where we could create and feel good about what we do. And I truly believe, and I'm not saying this for whatever reason, that we have a Caribbean people have a very special gift to give to the world. And it's not the other way around. We still hold on to that, the world. We look out there and we say, okay, God, I want to live in the US, or I want to do, nothing's wrong with that. But we have to recognize, because we have grown up seeing the sea, having pretty flowers around us, or whatever it may be, that we have something to offer to the world. And I think that we have allowed ourselves somehow or the other, and I guess that's the whole colonial thing, that what we are is not good enough, but we are as an individual, and we are as a country, and we are what we produce and what we could offer to the world. So yeah.
Thank you. So I know about that feeling going by Lisa. In fact, she summons me sometime and saying, "Come and sit down by me now, boy. I see and you was looking kind of stressed. I know you don't drink wine, but when you talk and we do a hug, and the hug does really feel good." And so I go off and on. Sometimes we miss each other because she flies out at the time or I fly out myself. But I want to pick up on the line that she talked about, because this is what I do believe, that they called us the New World back then when those cartographers made a mistake, medieval cartographers, when Columbus was supposed to come this way, or all of the old world wanted to go and colonize wherever they're going, but they were thinking they were going for silks and spices in the east and bunks up the Indies, and then say, since we went west, this is West Indies. And we were called the New World, and it's an abstraction, I think, that writers use, but I really do believe, because of the syncretism that the plurality that we have here, and the ways that we engage with each other, in spite of the atrocities of the past, and in spite of some of the uglies that we live with on a daily basis. There's some going on right now in the city. We look like we can become a template place to the world, and I really do believe that, and I think it resonated through all the speakers here, that we have an adaptive way, and we adopt, and we roll with the punches kind of way, which is a peculiar strength and resilience. And I want to see how we could vision going forward. I want at the end of this, we mightn't have a blueprint or a roadmap, but I want to start charting from you all what it is to do to make this move forward. How do we unleash, peel off integuments, unshackle some of what everybody calls what society wants or what people think? All of that is a colonial legacy that we need to dismantle. And as long as that exists, and you have to craft yourself within those constraints, as one of our speakers said yesterday and almost brought me to tears, how he said it, that is the beginning. He said, this talk is not necessarily the assertion of freedom. This talk is just what the flare says. It's lighting the way to see where the possibility of it lies. I said, wow, because it's an absolute, and we may never achieve that. But we have to constantly, like a Greek character called Sisyphus, keep pushing that big rock up the hill responsibly and rolling back down to the bottom and try again. And so I'm going to start here, kind of like a teacher in ordered format. And you go across the panel to say, what do you feel in your way, based on your own biographical reflection, you can shake off some of the old thinking, start doing new things, or share with us some of the new things you have done, even if it's infinitesimal. Every time I say that, remember my friend, look, she did. We went on a tour around the Caribbean, and when I say words like that, she used to say, spell it. loud in front of everybody. But that just means it could be minute changes, because it has to be incremental. We can't get up tomorrow to be free, or we can't get up to tomorrow with a wisdom of freedom, but we certainly can probe thought and let everybody here leave with, I never thought of that way. So let's see how we could start forecasting a possibility of an appreciation, because I think it comes with love of self. Everybody spoke that here in some way. Loving yourself in spite of, and that's supposed to be easy. But I know it hard, and I can't talk no more because I will start to weep. Because that's real hard for me to do. I don't know about other people, and people look up and say, but look how nice you're talking, and you always on TV, and you just be talking and think, what problem you could possibly have? The clown is, I don't think I'm the saddest person in the world, but I'm certainly reflective of self, and therefore I punish myself. So, but the punishing of self is because of that thing that hangs there, which could be called the colonial legacy.
Yeah.
The other people thinking that is thwarting how you could see yourself. So let's go across the panel to start talking about what I do or what could be done to move in this freer space.
Right. Well, first I want to give this as a gift to somebody backstage.
Yes, so that it doesn't be, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So, okay, so the game that I play, I think life can be many things. And you can choose which path you want to take. There's many different ways to live and to define life. And sometimes you have to kind of choose. I think that's the hardest part of life. Having to choose something, which means you can't choose the other thing. So one of the choices that I have made for the last 10 years, I'm 62, so I've had 6 decades to reincarnate over and over. So the last reincarnation is about 10 years. And during that time, what I do for fun is to try to find a problem that we have here that I could figure out with others a solution to it, and then we can share that solution. So what that has been for the last 10 years is figuring out how do we work in collectives, in communities where we grow cocoa to make the chocolate ourselves, and what else comes out of that, because it's a whole rich world, right? And then take that template, and I was really interested in you using that word, because I think that's part of the role of small islands in the Atlantic. I have lived in the Pacific, and it's a very different place. We can sail to every island within a day. In the Pacific, you're sailing days without seeing anything, weeks. So we have been able to replicate. I think we are very good at replication. And so we took this model, we replicated it, we shared it with other communities, we shared it with St. Lucia, we shared it with Dominica, with Guyana, and then during COVID, when I was fed up with Trinis and Tobagonians, because I am Tobagonian lineage, not Trinidadian very much, I said, okay, who else could we do this with? And just like you said, the universe just lines up. I was friends with a cocoa farmer in Malawi and with one in Nigeria, and we said, okay, what can we do? Somebody reached out from Uganda, and within about 2 weeks, we had 16 countries of Pan-African people on the call who were farming cocoa. So it just moved, right? People in Africa is an indigenous place of Pan-African life, and so they understand collaboration, innovation. They understand all kinds of things we'd already understand in the diaspora, right? So it was very, very quickly they started teaching each other. I gave some info that I had, which they had been trying to get from colonial people for decades, and the people are so stingy. One thing you learn about settlers is they are the most insecure, stingy people, whatever the country settlers come from or the place in the world. Anyhow, so the information spread, and next thing you know, here we are, 4 years later, 22 countries in this network, including 4 of the poorest African American towns, have now been introduced to chocolate. We are sending chocolate from the global south to the global north, creating cafes. We have one in Tunapuna. Winifred Atwell, I think, is from close by. And we have been able to template things, and that's the fun. So I would say I'd kind of stop there, except it happens in nature constantly. We just need to look at nature. Nature is way more intelligent. When I say nature, we need to look at non-human species which are often way more intelligent than human species, and kind of copy what they do. So what does the stingless bee do? How do they transport? What does the immortelle tree do? Those are my teachers. I look at them, but like Aquila, I have had to be immersed in the language of them because it is a different language. And so how do we learn the language across species to be able to utilize that language to create a template? Because if they create templates, franchises came out of nature. And so utilize that to speed up diversity, to speed up decolonialism. Colonialism passed fast because they created templates and they spread these templates. The priests wore the same thing in every country, the same dress, the same book, the same whatever. The school was the same uniform. When you create templates, you can speed up movement in either a toxic direction or in a detoxifying direction. So that is what I do.
Thank you so much. Very clear.
Well, I got so wrapped up in what Jenny was saying, I forgot your question. So I want to make sure I answer properly.
Yeah, well, as I do when I work with pageant girls and so ladies, I tell you, you don't really have to hear the question, you know. One word in there sparks the conversation.
Well, so that happened, right?
Okay, right. So,
right.
Yeah, because whatever you feel to say at this moment is right for us to hear.
Okay.
That is what I really want to say.
So like Gillian brought up fear. Fear will cripple you, huh? Fear will cripple you. You will not do what I think you're sent here to do, and I believe we're all here sent to do something, and we're not cookie cutters, and nobody is more important than the next. So fear will cripple you, and understanding that doing what just bugs you inside, it's like a mosquito ringing in your ear, just delve in it. Look at it a little bit. Deciding to paint on silk. Why silk? It's so expensive. It's not available in Trinidad. Why would you do that? Because I like the feel of it. I use many different types of silk, sometimes 7 different types of silk. A lot of people don't know there's that number of silk, but no, I have to dig deeper. I'm one of those people who will just go and find and dig deeper and spend my last cent doing it because I get excited because this is going to feel differently and this will appeal more to this woman than that woman. And then the idea of painting each piece. That takes about a week sometimes to do each one. Why, boy? When it's just like so much work. But it soothes my soul because I dug deeper and I listened to that voice inside, and it makes me feel happy. And happiness, I think, is something that's really hard for most of us to be. It's the easiest thing, but we think of the struggle, we think of the bills, we think of the this, we think of what everyone thinks, and we let fear, interfere with everything. And you brought up looking at different species, and you realize that we have totally mixed up what is part of nature within ourselves, and we put these blocks in. You think the Bajak who just eat my whole rose plant that I spent $250 and drive deep south to get because it was a rare set a couple of weeks ago, he just went to eat. And I am having a hissy fit off of my plant. And as my late grandmother would say, we all had to eat. And it's true. So I smiled and I watched that plant for a couple of weeks, trying to debate, do I get Bajak bait? Or do I just leave it? Because it's not dead, right? Quick as I get a leaf, they come back. I bought the Bajak bait yesterday. But I did not put it on yesterday because I'm dealing with the guilt of the fact that I might kill a Bajak in the process, right? Because remember, I'm in their space, as I tell you all, I live in the bush, and they're influencing me, and so can you just look at it? The point is, these other species have no fear. They just do what they have to do to get from here to there to create what they have to create. There's a big wasp nest on my daughter's porch, and every time I go to mop the porch, I'm mopping around it, and then I realize they ain't taking me on. They really don't. I continue to do it and they're fine. They've created their space, and there I am all worried I'm letting this fear make me not enjoy my own space. Anyway, I say all of this to say part of freedom is digging deeper and just, what's so wrong with dealing with the nudge that's inside? Why do we run away from it? Why are we afraid of not doing that little thing that could bring happiness? Because society says not to. Because we are brought up to think you're supposed to be a husband and wife, a picket fence, and pull out the violin. No, I don't think that's what it's about. So nudge it, do it. Get that freedom that you have, that you were born with. It's there in you for a reason. So the same way you'll feel to do anything else, touch your special parts and see what sparks, I think.
Yeah. I know people say, that expression, people say, I had a mind to do that, or my gut telling me to do it. And it's your intuition. I think it's like your sixth sense. And I feel like an Obi man a lot of times because I don't know how I be right on point. And Dominic, who works with me over the years, he says, Richard, when you see that, I'm not even questioning you. I was coming to put up a front, but I'm not putting up no front because I don't want you to blame me afterwards for not following your gut. Because I just look at somebody who walks in the room, I say, she not for us, she not going to help this process. And he said, but how she just walk in? I don't know. I just something talking to me, telling me that it's always, even if it takes a while, it's always on point. I'm going to pull the crystal ball from under my bed and start charging. Yeah, so, Akila.
That's my freedom. To make a noise and to go deep inside and bring it out, connect, and to be myself without fear. So when you can be yourself without fear, but then understanding who you are. Like at my shrine, Ile or Saigbo Itapa, the question we ask, who are you? I am land, water, and something else. Something which I must pass on. Something that binds me to those of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Think about that. So as I do my liberation work, beside my forest work and my craft work, I enjoy the liberation work. I enjoy moving around the Caribbean and going to North America, finding my relatives in Virginia, Georgia, North South Carolina, Alabama, Louisiana, Spanish Florida, Oklahoma, and Canada. How many Americans in this room? Woo! You're American too, right? Yeah, claim it. That is my freedom. Looking back to go forward, helping my people to identify who they are and from whence they came. And going to Florida some days ago to celebrate emancipation. They only got emancipation in 1865, when we got emancipated in 1838, right? So they were way behind. When they got the news that Caribbean emancipated and so on, they started, catch up with us, right? And going over there, emancipation is far from what we celebrate here. So they need that strength, and I look at collective liberation. You liberated, but what about him? What about her? So we got to be, liberated collectively, because the colonizers, their footprints are buried and engraved in every section of society, from the streets, from the education, everything. So it's for us to throw the shackles off our backs, break the walls of the colonizers and free ourselves. But how can we free if we don't know? So knowledge is important. So let us try understanding who we are and from whence we came, and then we can say, yeah, this is freedom. Ashe.
Thank you.
I wanted to say this yesterday when the Prestige School gang was here. I went to Carib Junior Sec, that don't exist anymore, because I have a school called St. Joseph Secondary, and I went to St. Augustine Senior Comprehensive, that don't exist anymore, because I have a school called St. Augustine something. Yeah, and then I went to school in Togo Composite. I got my O-levels, one O-levels a year for 5 years. Right? I remember when I was trying to apply to UE to do art and gender. They asked me to, I say, well, it won't be bring back them 5 pieces of people. Well, let's look fit, please, right? So I am part of the many of the group in Trinidad that I don't know if people feel the same way, but I remember I was embarrassed or uncomfortable that I went to Caribbean Sex. So I had a group of friends. The Cornies lived behind us, and Alvin Corney and their sons. So I did talk to them for 5 years until I finished secondary school. Then I went and looked for them after that. So that was a kind of concept, right? And I still tell people I am unemployable by anybody else other than myself.
It's true.
Right? And right now I have a business partner who might even think I am unemployable. So freedom for me now is I remember when the club was celebrating, well, this year the club is celebrating 40 years. And Camille Salvon was one of the first designers and co-founders of the cloth. And Natalie Phillips from Chuma Bakery, and Adele Todd, who is working at another university. So there's something good about collaborations, the freedom to collaborate, the freedom to work together. The collaboration doesn't last long because as a man, I am sexist, recovering. I practice male domination, I'm recovering. But as a part of the oppressive group, I acknowledge that.
Yes.
So I have to think about a few things. I have to think about the cloth for the next period of time. And I have to think about I have another project called Vulgar Fraction, which is where I find my free space now. Vulgar Fraction is a carnival band that encourages people to reclaim the ability to make, even if you don't know you could make. So people who play in the band have to get involved in making a costume, even if they don't know that. They might say they see it and they want to come and to be part of it. They were told that, look, these are the components I can give you, and then you do the rest. I met somebody on Saturday who was complaining and still saying he showed some people in the studio where he was tortured and having to develop his own costume. But trying to pull things together. So also, in the last few years, I've started to make masks from banana fiber. Right? So we shred banana trees. We work alongside the UV field station. We get access to the machine, and we shred banana trunks. And the idea is to move that into making maybe fabric later on, but exploring it. So last year we used it raw, and this year we dyed it, and next year we would plait it and figure out what we could do with it. But as a way to kind of like connect to making in a natural way, but also the freedom to do it without embarrassment. Vulgar Fraction does not register. The music for Vulgar Fraction is a speaker box that is attached to a bicycle. People are in shock and then like, what kind of strange thing is this? But it could be done. So the freedom of deciding that the carnival space is a space that you can people that say the most crazy things as Calypsonians, right? And the most important things as Calypsonians, and we say make interesting things. And the same way I heard my business partner say the cloth cannot upscale by making in Trinidad. And I said, no, that can't happen. The same way they said yesterday that people say, bands say, tribe and this and all them say, we can't make hair, but we still make hair. We just have to choose what materials we make hair, what we make hair with, and change the idea of the importance of spectacle. Because as a people who feel kind of diminished, we want shine. Like that plastic crown that she's wearing, sorry. Spectacle. I'm sorry. So there's a way that, so you have to kind of like undo, feel uncomfortable, feel porous, leak, feel fragile, feel uncomfortable, feel like you don't know, and try to, because we don't know, we try to navigate, like what's happening in Trinidad now, we don't know. And we're trying to navigate, and we're using examples that we saw that don't fit here, that is not, we all know internally in our bodies the history of the place, what that does do. Right? Nuff, there's a group of people called Nuff from 1973, Beverly Jones, that was killed by the state. What's his name?
Guy.
There are a few in that road, about 24 of them that the state killed. But those were young people who said independence didn't work out. The Black Power thing didn't do it. And because they had the idea to want more, the state said no. The same way how that young girl was arrested today. They had to run to the hills and live in the forest for 2 years. It was the longest standing insurgency in the English-speaking Caribbean, with 400 people looking to kill them. That happened here, but we don't know. So there is a consequence for trying difference. A consequence for thinking outside the box. Like today with the guy who was arrested, he just said, I go in and say something on the road, and he's on the road and they hold him and put him in the car. That was so, so I could stop here, and I'm not going to repeat the Ruby from yesterday.
So, I want to point out two things that he mentioned that might have lost you a little bit because of yesterday's panel. No, not that. I wasn't lost. Last evening, we had people who acknowledged their sameness. They all went to prestige schools, and after that, in a quest for self-actualization, they started realizing that a lot of the frameworks that were embedded through that process were limiting and restricting and
violent.
And so what it allowed for them to do probably is to be very articulate, because they were particularly articulate because of that. But also they were aware of what was wrong or what was ever. So we had, so Robert was referencing that, and I was thinking about him actually, because he was sitting here one day, all Naprima presentation, St. Mary's, and that.
Convent bishops.
Yeah, and all the schools were called. But something that Robert said there, which is, and something that was said yesterday by Sakia Yuzama Badada, who is the executive director of Emancipation, just walked in. She was on panel yesterday. And she talked about going back to the future. And it's because of, in a way, which is leading into my colleague at BCR, so the circular model, which we have to reinstill, because it's almost like everything was tried already, and we have to go around. And another speaker said that is what revolution is, if people didn't know that, So when they hear the word revolution, they're seeing people running the streets screaming. It's just reacquainting and reaffirming of a way that worked. And that's what it is. And so a lot of indigenous practices have come back to the fore as a trend when that is what is natural to us, you know. So yeah, every day I get up in the morning and they tell me something else to take and to drink. This morning I got up, it was okra water. And I say, I'm going to set of okra and I'm going to put it, and the next day, tomato ain't good for you, you know. Don't bother with tomato. I say, you all are confusing me. You know, but all of them still doing the other part of what we try to do. All they want to do is sell.
Yeah.
It's all about sell. And that maximization of profit mandate is what confuses everything with us acknowledging our naturehood, because that is a different story. And I don't even know if hybridity really can work, because that's what some people say, well, in the carnival vein, we have to be aware that they have to maximize profit, and yes, we need to understand our heritage and our tradition and keep it alive. But how are we really doing that? It's really starting to configure in my head as a real challenging prospect, because realistically, we had a young man in the audience on the first day, and he came to me and he said, how come they're songing like carnival is not to make money? That's what he told me after, and he said, but that's what carnival is for. So even though I understood all of what they were talking about, they probably need to find a way to reach in the center, because money had to make. And I don't know if in our household, I suppose Robert shares it to some degree, we had unionist parents. I have never been incentivized by money, and it's probably to my detriment still. I don't do things because, so somebody meets me, like I have a very busy spell coming up, boy, you're making money, boy, oh God. And I find it vulgarizes the whole thing. I don't know what you're telling me. You ain't say you find your joy or you like what you're doing. Your business means money. And the back end of that, you could spare me 100. Because since you're making money, you could give me some. And I don't know how that, it irritates me. I'm talking about nausea. Because I am doing this here. This is not a money-making thing. This is in an effort to find, to realize purpose and find a joy. That's what it is. You know, and we have the Emancipation Show coming up, and there's a point where I celebrate my methodology in my fashion merchandising process. That's what it is. Some reward is there, but it is not about that first. So, and now I introduce Precious to follow in that, because that's our complex situation. Yeah.
Not to make it too complex, but to make it, understandable for everyone. Just listening to everything that has been said thus far, and thinking back to the nomadic way of living, which we often like to look down on and say that was a long time thing, living in the bush, and the way our ancestors interacted with the immediate environment. But in its simplicity, they made conscious efforts to not disturb what was around them. They made conscious efforts to live life comfortably and also allow the things around them to live and breathe. And I think it's very admirable to sit along these panelists here who, in a society where we have so many choices that it could confuse you, they have chosen to, with their freedom, to produce things that in turn doesn't affect anyone. Through the cloth, through the use of our own language and lingo, through living off the land and the interaction that comes out of looking at the animals that are around us that we take for granted, but learning their ways, through expressing themselves through the jewelry that we wear, and now bringing it across us to show us that it's not a cookie cutter way that was passed down from colonizers to say, okay, this is what we have to do. We're importing it large, we're importing it big, we're importing it fast. But because of their passion for what they like doing, and when they dug deep within themselves and they say, you know what, I have the freedom to take what I like even though it might be harder, it might be a much more expensive process, I might be scrutinized for it, it is outside the box. And this is the thing I love about our Caribbean people. Can't put us in a box. We will always expand, we will always grow, we will show you that we can adopt, and it's such an admirable thing that I think we need to hold on to, because it transcends from now, and it's going to be going with the children in the future, the younger ones in the future. So how do we pass this knowledge on to them, to let them know that being and thinking outside of the box is a form of freedom when you decide to choose it for yourself? How do we pass it on so that they choose for themselves to go the sustainable route, or to decide that, you know what, I don't want to be a part of what was the norm or what was passed down, but I want to do something different, something that will impact my people, something that would carry on the legacy and the story that is being told here in the Caribbean. And just like the BCRC Caribbean, and listening to the other panelists, the options that you would have chosen to use, it's, as you said, shake off the plastic, the heavy plastic that you were speaking about in the things that we wear, the clothing that you wear. Have you ever stopped to think about the material and how it interacts with your skin, the largest organ that we have, and how much open pores we have, and with the heat we have, the chemical breakdowns, how does that interact with you in the long run? Yes, the textiles might be much more expensive, but it's safer. It's eliminating hazardous chemicals from waste streams and from our environment and from resting on your body. Even the jewelry that you wear, being coated with a lot of these toxic chemicals, as opposed to wearing something that came from Mother Nature itself, but making it fashionable and carrying this message across to persons that you could still be hip, you could still be fresh, you could still be fly, but in a way that it doesn't affect or harm others. And I think with Richard having this panel here and having these thought-provoking conversations, it kind of lets persons on an individual level now, with your freedom of choice, even though as the lovely lady in the crowd would have said it's an illusion, with your little room of choice that you have, what would you do with that freedom to choose? Which route would you take? So I think it's important that we try to stay away from what has been passed down and think it as the norm and think that it won't affect us, because it's not affecting us now, and we're not seeing the effects of it now. But as the younger generations come up behind us, and the influence of social media and how strong other societies, that's what being the European societies, has the influence on us here in the Caribbean, we tend to forget who we are, where we come from. And so it takes a lot of bravery to decide I'm going to speak with my accent, even though I'm in a different land. I'm going to wear my very colorful clothing that is representative of our people and where we come from. And so it aligns so well in the goals that we want to see for our nation, the sustainable goals that we want to implement in the mind of the youth from now. It's nothing that is too difficult to grasp once we all play our role and function.
Yeah. There was something implicit in what Precious talked about, which is like a public health. I mean, public health is something that is a collective concern. So one has to have that implicit in a choice making. I also think that integrity, which is a word that is used sometimes and people don't understand the core of it, in your choice making, it should be packed with some kind of integrity. And as long as it has that, it means that you as an individual, you're looking out for the collective space you're in. What happens is, yesterday, the first day again, somebody said, a young man again came to me and he said, they didn't own up to the fact that they didn't transfer the information to the young people. The young people don't know was one of the topics on day one, but nobody said, therefore we are to blame because you didn't pass it on. It didn't pass it on. It was recklessly left out of the equation. So the knowledge transfer, which is from our old griot traditions where you have to pass it on, if you left it out, so we closed the first session so poignantly with a girl who said, I was 19 years, 5 days ago. I don't know anything all you're talking about. When I was 19, me and my friends say we playing mass next year. And we look at the costume and we see pretty mass and we pick one. And we like the music and we start to dance and we thinking about how we going to play mass. And somebody had mentioned a song, High Mass by David Rogers. She said, I don't know that name, I don't know that song. Nobody told me anything. And then she raised another point that she's a black girl in a class that is doing well, and there are 2 other black girls who are doing well. And instead of them collaborating, they look like they're fighting down one another. So I thought she synopsized the entire thing. A human stand up and say it. And then she was selected to go somewhere to represent a body. And when she saw the pictures, they lightened her skin in the photograph. So they misrepresented her. I said, wow, and I just closed by Out of the Mouth of Babes. Here is how we close this evening, because we have a person speaking from the belly of the whale. And I think that to borrow from an old book that we laugh at, I think is an Orwellian thing, the Animal Farm thing. So even though we say sometimes we're going to do things, we just join the bandwagon. We are bandwagonists, you know. And I just find that so ridiculous that, and I suppose we had also talks about what is politically correct to say, and now that we are beaming out to the world, because people say they're going on with best intention, because somebody spoke about intentionality. And when you get in this spot, you join the bandwagon of what existed before and keep fostering the old way. Sometimes what is more deceptively disguised in another way. You know, so it's not that we're going anywhere, we're not unleashing something new. So talking about disruption is right up the alley for Camille to come in with her point, because I think that is one of the, disruption has changed its meaning. It's a positive word now. You know, when you're disrupting that apple cart, as they say, even though we don't have any apple carts here. In fact, we do, because our fruit stalls that are in the middle of the Caribbean, I have some foreigners and they say they feel for fruit, and we go down the road and they say, how are they selling apple and pear? And all in the middle of the tropics, you know? But anyway, that's another topic, another day. Yes, Camille.
Yes, so Richard, I think this question is so important. You asked about what would we do on the panel to create a spark to bring that change. And you also said that change does not have to be huge. And I think that is how things change, because when I came back 25 years ago, there was no animation in the universities. So I left Trinidad to go learn animation because there was nothing here. And when I came back, I was part of that process to bring animation at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, that was a small spark that happened with that woman who said, when I look up, I heard your voice, I heard a different voice, and I look up. And that created a spark in me to go back home, because I felt, I don't want everybody having to leave the island to come and learn animation, or learn film, or learn whatever. I had to, another thing is, at university, it was the first time we had a whole conversation about CLR James. I had to go to London to have CLR James on my topic to talk about. I was like, oh, okay, I have to come back home. So what I did, I have 4 kids, but I have about 350 to 400 other children because I'm in academia, right? So I'm the head of the animation department at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. When we first started getting in students, you know, some students were not communicating well, but they drew well, right? So they won't look you in the eyes when they're speaking to you, but they drew really well. And it was only after about 10 years when one particular gentleman applied to the program, and his mother said out straight, he's on the autistic spectrum, right? And the moment she said that, I was like, but wait, we have lots of students in the spectrum. We just didn't know, right? But we recognize that there's a different way of learning. So what we did, and I'm talking as a team here, we said, all right, if you don't have 5 levels, if you can show us a portfolio that you're learning to work with digital media, you're drawing on your phone, it don't have to be a tablet, it could be a phone, that will be considered. That's a minor thing that created such a huge shift in university. Because you all need to understand university means making everybody think the same. That is what university is, right? You come out there and you fit into where you need to fit. So that was one of the first things that I did that really kind of shifted. And our first full spectrum student graduated two years ago with a BFA in Digital Media Arts. So that's amazing. And he's confirmed on the spectrum. Now what we need to do, my next step, because I don't have many decades left, it is about education reform. That's the disruptor. We cannot continue with this, especially with artificial intelligence on the spectrum. Out there looking at us, I say it is this big fat train coming towards us. And what are we going to do? Are we going to run away from it? Are we going to dive under it? Or are you going to jump in it and go where it's going? And we have a very, very unhealthy relationship with artificial intelligence. It's a double-edged sword. It has its horrible sides and it has its amazing sides. And we need to figure out what that relationship is. So my intention, going back to your question, is to be an advocate for education reform. It is to get our students to be taught for the new world of work, because half of what they're doing now, I am from academia, so I'm probably going to get buffed for this. Half of what they're doing now is obsolete. It's not even going to be obsolete in 2 years, it's obsolete now. What are we doing? What are we teaching our children? What careers are we preparing them for? So we have nothing in the curriculum talking about artificial intelligence. When are you going to make that a thing? We have a ministry, but not the Ministry of Education, right?
And I think that is part of the bigger problem with us not moving with the times.
Exactly.
We still trying to apply that long-term knowledge with the children of today, and they are moving ahead, but in the wrong direction, using the AI for wrong things.
Yes, I had one. So in class, I teach animation, and I teach in a particular method, and I had a student say to me, but miss, on YouTube, they show me a different way to do this, you know. What am I to do with that? Tell the child that he's wrong? The child not wrong. YouTube is showing them different and easier ways to do things. What are we going to do with these? What are we going to do with this? Why are we not talking about it? What are we waiting on? You know? So that's my, it is disruptive. I've been thrown under the bus many times. If you look up my name, you will see things come up with newspaper articles, right? But that's what we need to do, and the intention is to be the disruptor that I need to be.
Do you think it's that same fear factor why we will not move forward? Because the powers that be, it intimidates them because it's actually something that they don't know?
Absolutely. I 100% agree with it, and we have an aging management, layer of management. I'm not ageist, I'm getting there, right? I'm gonna be there. Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Totally.
Yes. Yes, and in management places where they're gonna be there for a good another 10 years. You know, and it's a fair, it's what Lisa said.
I believe is what society needs a lot more to actually trash out information, consider that it's a brainstorming situation. A lot of the time, we as young people will have these ideas, big ideas, ways to contribute, but it's not good to advise.
Yeah, exactly.
Bringing this information to you is not really in the good light for anybody because it's not your activity.
Yeah.
It's my time to shine.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of people who are suppressing the information because you're not going to use it even if I tell you.
Yeah, but the young people doing their thing though, huh? They're waiting on us.
So, yeah, if I may be able to guide the process. I love that because she is a disruptor, that one there. That Natalia Samuel. So we got that off mic when we could have needed to get it on mic because I was just waiting under a pause to introduce to the audience the opportunity to have a few words said, and we would have mic to give. But very good point. Okay. So this is a chance for people to make some comments or questions to throw at our panel. This lady right here had a hand out there.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My comment and question. You in the first.
That mic is on?
You're hearing me? Is
Yeah, we hear you.
Right. Sorry. So my question, when you were talking about Camille, when you were talking about doing our own, like film and so on, you mentioned, and I'm sorry, it kind of nagged me, because I don't know why you still had to say that. You said we can, go and win Oscars.
Yeah.
My question, why we have to think about Oscars? We have our own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure we all on social media. Of course, we'll see how the African awards, their Met Gala is actually, fantastic compared to what we see in Hollywood. Nollywood has been operating, for the last 30-something years, right? So, and they started really things. So we need to do that. And we had been doing that in the past. Yeah. You also said something that we didn't know, we have lost stuff, but when you look at talking about Jetsons and Flintstones, we didn't see anybody that looked like us. But my mind immediately went about then, how come we still had our sense of self at that time? Why? Because we had Mastana Baha, we had Scouting for Talent, and those kinds of things. We had a thriving local television content. And more than now. And we cannot, and somebody said it's our fault. We don't say, I think as Richard said, we don't pass it on. It is our fault. I've been saying it for a long time. I apologize to my students. I teach students at a master's level. And it's in livestock. I have a problem with everything that people say, because all of this that you all are saying here, flair, starts with, as you said, the ground, with our agriculture, getting back into understanding that without agriculture, we wouldn't be anywhere. We'd still be running from our food or running behind our food, right? We need to understand ourselves a lot. When I tell my students, I start them something in agriculture, but I start telling them, and they don't want, recently told me, I said, what do you think about, forgive me, what do you think when you hear policy? Nothing. That means nothing to me because they make a decision and I have to live with it. And I almost died when he told me that. At the end of the class, he told me, thank you very much. It was the most interesting class. He learned a lot because I had to tell them about Michael Manley, Eric Williams, all the way down so they will understand the whole context. Just like you said, the whole context of what we are dealing with. We have to tell our young people. Yeah. We really have to tell them. Thank you.
Good evening once again.
You don't have a mic on that side?
As usual, I want
well, sorry.
As usual, I want
stand up, please.
I want to go back to the theme of this event. If flair for freedom. Freedom from colonial legacies. I've been here for the 3 days. And today I discovered something. Well, I always knew it, but it cemented it today. The African community is a blessed community. The diaspora, throughout the world, we are blessed people. The Trinidad and Tobago's context. You go into the communities and you would find talent beyond your wildest imagination. Look at our sister right here. Is it Attila? Look at our very own sister, Aquila. Look at our very own sister here. We have some of the best hairdressers, the best barbers, the best seamstresses and tailors. Look one right here. Came out from right out of the community. Designer. My friend right here was one of the best seamstresses in Port of Spain. So we have talent. Added to that, I'm going to go a little awry or whatever the word is. I will stray a little bit here to bring in a little bit of the politics. Because I think as a people, we are very disingenuous. We've had as well the People's National Movement that has brought a lot of creativity to our communities. We've had the PNM as well try to bring education to persons who would have been left behind for some reason, some strange reason. So for those of you who are ageable, like myself, you would recall that there used to be this 50 cents you go and pay in the treasury, and you go and take evening classes if you fall out of primary school and you didn't get the opportunity to go secondary school or whatever the case may be, so you could have go and get your subjects. So as a people, we are armed. We are armed, but can you tell me why we are so blessed, but yet still we are down to the bottom of the economic ladder? What's wrong? It can't be massa. I am sorry. Maybe if somebody explained to me, I might be able to see it, but from what I am seeing, it is not massa. You know what is our problem? We continue to sell out ourselves. That's the problem. I'm going to go a little hard. It's not only one disruptor here. I tell her, it's not the only disruptor. She's not the only disruptor. One of our problems as a people in Trinidad and Tobago came right out of the University of the West Indies. Right out of the university, because you know why? Those people who come out of the university, they are more accommodating and embracing. I think he spoke about it a little bit today, or maybe yesterday. We have a sympathy for other groups. We toe lines. We're very cautious. We're very cautious. And so things that affect us, the persons who come out of university who will be armed with our taxpayers' dollars to help to defend us and to look out for us, because mind you, the other groups look out for each other. But when we send our African sons and daughters to get an education, and they come out of UN, there's doctors and lawyers, when their African mothers and aunts and so forth coming to the hospitals or whatever the case may be, we do not look after them. Other groups look after theirs. So part of our problem come right out of the University of the West Indies. To me, the more educated we become as a people is the more selfish and the more sellout we are. I sat here and I listened to this lady here, spoke about making, no, it was this lady at the MPN. She spoke about doing an animation and wanting to put her Trinidad context to it, and she had mixed reactions, but she was disruptive. And she said, you know what? I am not going to make anyone stop me. How many persons we know of her ilk will do that for the sake of identity? How many? Not very many. And I'm going to finish off with this. And I'm going to finish off with it by going at my sister to the frontier, Zakia, from the Emancipation Support Committee. I do not believe that the Emancipation Support Committee has supported and defended the African community the way it should have defended the African community. And I'll make a simple point. I'll make a very recent point to show where I feel that we have been failed by the Emancipation Support Committee. Thousands of African people lost their jobs. Persons at the lower end of the economic ladder. And I have not heard an outcry or a plead from the Emancipation Support Committee for those persons. And let me tell you why I'm saying that. I'm saying that because we don't understand the plan that they continue to have for us as African people. When you take away our bread and our butter, when you take away our livelihood, what are you doing? You are putting us to go and commit crime. And when you commit crime, they have the police that look like us to arrest us, beat us, and to put us into the prisons. And if we continue to close our eyes and we don't understand that we have to up the ante on where we are, because as I said, we are a blessed people. But then why are we not seeing it in terms of our young sons and daughters being proud of who they are? Look, my sister here talk today. You watch our young sisters, and I'm not seeing it with other groups, maybe minute. Our young brothers are wearing their pants below their buttocks. We have not been able to try to change that. And now what are we seeing? What are we seeing? You know what we see now? We have frowned our nose on our sons with the pants below their bottom. Our women now want to compete with them by wearing their skirts on top their bottom. So we only see young women walking around now with bouncy cheeks, and young men, come on, I end here. Thank you very much.
I have the mic currently, and I wonder why I take it, because after this lady has spoken, I'm KW. I was trying to connect. I've been here since the first day, and I was trying to connect what I was hearing. So I went to Caribbean Transit earlier this year, and quite frankly, I wasn't sure why I went. When I left, I understood why I went. So I hope today I can come with that conclusion. But after listening to my sister, especially now, I want to come back to where we were, and everything she said is relevant, so I don't have to go back there. But I want to call two names. I've been exposed to a couple of the probably unsung leaders in Trinidad and Tobago. One is Astor Johnson, over the last 20 years. The other name I'll call is Waveney Patricia Charles, and you all may not know of her, but there's a condition called sickle cell that came across the waters when our ancestors came to the Caribbean. And the Caribbean is the third largest, I believe, region in the world that deals with this condition. And this woman took it upon herself, left Ghana, went to India to study as a 16-year-old by herself. And decided to spend all her professional life in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, she is known as a hematologist and a blood banking specialist as well, among many other things. But after she transitioned about 3 years ago, one of her mentees or students mentioned that she would have children 7 years old, dealing with not passing it on, talking to the young doctors at the clinics, telling them what tests they would need, why they need those tests, and what their numbers were like previously, so there could be a comparison. We talk about young children who can now lead their interventions with their doctors and nurses at clinics. And those students were actually schooled by those young people, simply because Dr. Charles was more of an educator, well, in my opinion, than a medical doctor. And in every sphere of life I've gone, I've heard about how she's impacted people, and she always dressed in memory of her ancestors. Long garb, very diminutive woman. When her mouth opens, you have to look up. Even though she's right here, you have to look up at her. And I just wanted to emphasize that the flair of freedom, she took the liberty to bring hematology into the Caribbean. And how does that connect? I got a video recently that says dance helps persons cognitively, and therefore it enhances your general health, mainly your mental health. And that's an issue in Trinidad, well, certainly around the world. Coming out of COVID, it became more topical. So, Astor Johnson, I wrote it down, but I don't want to speak remember it. He was a minimalist designer, meaning that he would take little pieces of cloth and make big costumes for the stage. So this is where he performed many years. And he's one of the persons who have built the Prelude of Queen's Hall. And when you look at the intersection of culture and health, as one of the speakers said earlier, there's no person without agriculture, and there's no health, there's no culture, there's no carnival without people. So I just want to make that connection, and I'm hoping I'm making sense, because there's a lot more I can say, but I want to respect time and really let this sink in. And one of the things I want to use as I have this platform is that I try to ask persons on a regular basis, come off topic a little bit, to be willing, once you're 18 years old, to whatever age you are, to consider giving blood to the Trinidad and Tobago Blood Bank, simply because I have friends who need blood every 2 weeks. And if we take the freedom, just want to play on that, so decide that nobody has to tell you or ask you again from today, tell your friends and family, that the persons who, if they don't get blood every 2 weeks, their bone activates and it starts growing. They live a condition called thalassemia major. And it's life-threatening. We have young persons living with the same sickle cell I mentioned earlier who are on chronic transfusions because they had 2 strokes in 1 month when they were 3 years old. This is happening in Trinidad and Tobago. It's not in the news, but it's part of the community, and I just want to share this with you all today as the flair for freedom. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to say something? Yes, no, we're going to come back.
All right, I'm going to make this short. And I start that way because I don't want to ramble on and on. I am another one of the people who has come every night with my children as well. Huh? You hear me? Stand. I ain't dressed up to stand, that is the problem. Reality, yeah, freedom. And not adding to everybody else's, so I'm not going to rehash. But some of the more important points is what people don't know. What the youth don't know, what they don't understand. And reality is, and Abiola said it last night, and it's something that, funny enough, we had a discussion about, not me and her, but me and other people had a discussion about earlier that same day yesterday. The fact is that we don't have history. We don't have, well, she said social studies, but social studies really stops in standard 4. Because reality is that when you go into SEA, you're going to SEA to do English and maths alone. Funny enough, everybody in the front here spoke about being from prestige schools. But they're lucky because in prestige schools, they still teach history. In the rest of Trinidad and Tobago, they don't. They've stopped teaching history. History is an elective and you have to deliberately go and pay for it. So, to sit down and wonder how come they don't know is because we are structured that way. We are structured in a way that they don't want us to know. Right? It's not a situation of people not realizing what is going on. They don't know what is going on. Attila on the first night talked about they are taking our culture from us. But if we don't know the culture, how can they take it? And that is one of the things that stood out, I should say, in this entire series. We have the generation gap, but who is to blame going down from, let's say, generation X all the way to Z or Z? Who is to blame? And we can talk and we can try to give them the information. But somebody, as you all keep saying about spark, somebody has to light a spark in education. It is stopping the freedom.
Yeah.
It is a creation now since 1972. Because you see, everybody knows what happened in 1970. Everybody knows what happened in 71. But when, funny enough, I had that same conversation about NUF. NUF and what they did to them was the start of the of erasing history. They didn't want anybody to know after 1971 what happened. We were free. They didn't say that they killed 27 people after that freedom. Right? These things are things that we need to address. And Flare for Freedom was an excellent idea, Richard, because people don't know why they are not free. And I sit and because I do food, I do juice, because it connects directly. People connect to the belly and they talk and you understand and you start to understand what not just what the prestige school people say. You understand what the grounds say. What Mrs. Tenikona was talking about. Because you're there and you're hearing them. And that is two problems we have. You're not passing on anything. And this is a governmental level. And the disconnect with the ground is too much. It's either we find a way to connect more than just this. And the third thing is, like-minded people don't understand that there are like-minded people like them. And that is what the value of this is. They didn't understand. These people here are standing here, sitting here, and now realizing that, you know what? She understands, and she understands, and she... You know what I mean? And that is what has brought me back here for 3 days. To see if these speakers may be different. But you know what? Everybody had the same element in every speech, in every cross-section. These same elements. It just evolved over the 3 days. Start from when we started on, where are we here? Friday?
Monday.
Monday, and today is Wednesday, right? When we started America, it feels like a weekend, sorry. Right? From Monday to Wednesday, if you really check the evolution, it has evolved, even though no two people were on the same panel, which is amazing. You know what I mean? For y'all who weren't here, well, Robert was here, Zakia was here, right? But for people who were not here, for the speakers that weren't here, what you don't know is that where we started, where this lady was the lady who started the Freedom Connection here, right? And where we started with the definition of freedom to the end of it, we have, you achieved a lot of things because everybody here understands what like-mindedness is. Understand? Anyways, that is my contribution. I continue.
Good evening, everyone. I'll say before I speak, my accent and tone might not sound like I'm Trini to the bone, but at least to the small and large intestine, I'm still Trinidadian, right? So we can dismiss part of that. I'm from Belmont. So one of the things I wanted to say was, so I didn't have the good fortune of being here on the first day, but I was here last night, and I thank so much the panel for your insights and your just your authenticity and sharing today, because I think it's true in the comments, is it sparked something in us. I feel a fire lit under me and within me, and a pilot light of something that had been dimmed and gone out, kind of researched. I want to say that freedom, it has levels. I mean, this is probably the most obvious statement. There's the individual level, the collective, the historical, the freedom of memory, the gentleman's talking about what gets passed on or not. The governmental level, the levels that connect us from culture to religion to everything else. What I want to just distinguish, and it really is not to differentiate from what's been said, but to add again, this a layer of the individual level and intentionality. I was going to put my hand up last night, and I said, nah, somebody going to say it. And then nobody said it, but then you started with it today. It was the quote from our brother, Robert Nesta Marley, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. I'm left with, I'm going to tell you, there's a little irritation that happens to me every time somebody said the government need to, or the ministry didn't, because they're right. The government need to, and the ministry probably didn't, and they're probably not going to. But I also think, and this is a hot take, but people get the governments they deserve. But that aside, yes, the government need to, and the ministry should have, and they should have, and we should have. But at the end of the day, while those things are true, I want to also remind myself, and in doing that, hopefully you over here for you too, I'm here to emancipate myself, and this emancipation is not a one-time thing. I didn't get emancipated in 1989, and then it is repeated, it's daily, the levels are ones that we have to address again and again. In the age, I couldn't imagine artificial intelligence. Well, I couldn't imagine the cell phone when I was in secondary school, far less artificial intelligence. So now I've got to emancipate myself at another level when that comes along. I'm just saying, emancipation of yourself and finding freedom is not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing thing. And I've got to emancipate myself. And what I mean by that is when we come to the conversations we've had, and I really love the way you've put together the panelists who are talking from the digital space to the arts, to fashion, to the environment, and et cetera, and for all the other days. I'm now thinking, okay, so good. Where am I in my mind, in my thinking, closed-minded? Where can I expand? Where can I ask a different question? Where can I challenge myself and my own thinking? It cannot always only be out there, the other person, and then my mother and my father who didn't. Oh gosh, emancipate them now. They did the best they can, and now it is my turn. In every moment, in every age, I really want to just kind of just come back to that, and I hear Nesta Marley in my head repeating it, and I'm like, there's a reason that griot put that the way that he did. Let's take the wisdom from that. I invite you to emancipate yourself again and again and again. Because that slavery that is mental, that one, no Emancipation Proclamation is coming to free you from that one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And one thing, the Emancipation Proclamation didn't mention freedom of us. It mentioned that we will.
I thought you were going to say.
We will compensate.
No.
We will compensate for the loss of property, and we will provide a safe space for you to live and operate. It didn't talk about our freedom. It had nothing to do with us. It had to do with economic compensation, and the British government just finished pay back the debt just the other day for it.
Yeah. Let's continue with the comments from the audience there, and because it's time to close.
Yes.
Yesterday we went, must be an hour over.
Hour and a half.
It's crazy.
Well, I promise
So,
I really and truly
yeah,
do have
yeah.
questions. Just 2 questions. Anyone on the panel can answer. I must say before I continue, thank you so much for your words of what you do. Because the thing is, I've worked with 1, 2, 3, 4 persons on the panel. Haven't worked with you and you yet, because I'm that type of girl. However, in doing what you do, I want to stand on this side here and say continue doing what you do, because you never know who you have actually sparked that freedom or given that flame to actually try and do something, right? So my first question is, what responsibility do creatives have in preserving culture while also pushing boundaries and redefining freedom for the next generation? And how do we balance tradition with innovation in that light? That's the first question. Wow. So anybody could take that part.
Well, there's one question.
Yes! Says the person who gives me harder questions, and I have to answer on a stage. Right, so let me say it again. So, all right, let me kind
We got it. We're not one of those girls that just ask for the repeat. Go to
Oh,
the next question.
And the next question is, why do other cultures have units which are uninterrupted, where they are able to host gatherings, be able to send persons of interest to ancestral grounds for learning or etc., any other thing? But when it's for African people, Black Trimbegonians, we are deemed too much for asking for something that makes no sense, because who are you to want such a thing?
Okay, that's it. I'm holding the question afterwards because I have to cover this.
Okay.
I is the moderator. So we had to take this thing and make it make sense, because yesterday it went off the beaten path. Yes? Yes?
Me?
So, yes?
Okay, thank you. A couple of things, very, very briefly. Thank you for everything that you've said. And I noticed, because I'm from the dance and movement world, I'm very sort of cognizant of how your bodies move, and everyone's bodies. And I think freedom starts with an analysis of your own body, an analysis of how you feel joy, the way you feel joy when you paint, the way you feel joy when you've had some students succeed. All right? I looked at everybody's body. And I think that part of our freedom, our agenda for freedom, needs to start with understanding our own bodies. It's similar to kind of what you're saying in terms of the self, but I would paraphrase Marley and say, emancipate your body from mental slavery. So think about that, and think about how we use our bodies. Not only as we're sitting here, yes, we can think about carnival, but the thing is, everything we feel, everything we've talked about has to do with how our body relates to it, how our body relates to nature, how our body relates to clothes, how our body relates to teaching, etc. Otherwise, we have nothing else. okay, when we die, we will not have on clothes, okay, or we will have on clothes, but then they will deteriorate and our bodies will go with it, all right? So the only thing that we have is what we have in our minds. Some people call it the ori, whatever, and what we have as our bodies. So start with that to declare your own freedom. I go on.
Thank you. Is there another voice? Yes?
I want to thank the panel.
Okay.
And I'm in a frame of mind where I'm saying that to solutions, I have to say, like you said, I have a responsibility to
keep it a little closer to your mouth.
I have a responsibility to share my stories and my experiences, because I know I keep saying, or meeting young people, and when I speak with them for a very short space of time, they recognize how much is in my head. And I haven't been able to find enough channels besides, say, my right to write, which I am not doing the way I should. I take that responsibility. But I think that we have to try to create channels, because at my stage, I can give things, but I also need to be given things to help to take care of me at this stage, so that I think we can probably try to explore how people 80, 85 up, and more than that, how we can be stimulated, encouraged, assisted, especially the new, there's so much new language, there's the AI, there's this, there's that. But I'll tell you quite frankly, I feel as if, well, I'm alone in that. Yes, I can write the stories and all that, but I need like a current around me. Interesting. Then from some communities, groups or whatever, to give me that swell. It's as if it's up and down, but something will push you up and keep you there, and will keep producing for as long as you can. Because I'll give you an example. For instance, like I'm from Point Fortin, and the history of Point Fortin, a lot of young people don't know. When I lived there as a child and grew up, I didn't know the word apartheid. But when I read Trevor Noah's book, because I didn't get it in secondary schools, prestige schools, when I talk to them and tell them that that was a place of apartheid, it was apartheid. The first gated community, we didn't have that too. All we knew we were locked out was the expats, and then they had the monthly paid, the daily paid, and they controlled how you developed your financial or economic sense, because they did you paid everything with a chit. The locals paid a chit, so you paid a chit to go to the commissary, grocery, dispensary, to the doctor, amusement and whatever, and at the end of it you got the cash that was left, and sometimes it was in the minus, But now the young people now, to be able to go and live up there, and they love it, and Clifton Hill, they don't know. So this is what I'm saying, that I still feel that there is some usefulness, but we have to find a way to make people, it's inclusivity, the kind of inclusivity. So I was asking my niece here, is there anything that I don't know? Because I don't know so much of what is going on in Trinidad. So I've retired in Tobago for over 25 years. So I'm back again new. But I was very, very active. Some people might be. So how can I share?
Thank you. Yes. So that's it?
Let it be it.
Yeah.
We can't. Okay. She has the mic.
Yeah.
I'll just stand here. And indeed, there's a lot to think about, a lot of questions to be asked, but I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. Because when I came in this evening, the discussion was seeing yourselves, seeing ourselves. And that has resonated even from yesterday when I was here, right? And despite wearing this plastic crown,
Right, she had to bring that in.
which I will probably equate with your colonial partner.
Right.
It affords me. To me, it affords me opportunities. It gives me the opportunity to allow others to see themselves by seeing me. I'm also a teacher by profession. So when I wear my crown, when I am on stage, when I'm doing what I need to do, I'm also sending a message to our students who are not getting it, like we said, in the schooling. I hear everybody talk about education, but it's schooling. The schooling that we are giving to our children, they're not seeing it. So they need to see it in action. They need to see that face. They need to hear that voice. And I remember in preparing, because last year, while I'm Mrs. Universe Trinidad and Tobago this year, last year I was Mrs. Trinidad and Tobago representing as a Woman of the Universe. And I did my homework. I asked, what did people do before? And what I was told is, you need to wear gray, you need to wear the dark colors, you need to look European. I did no such thing. I went out there with my bright colors, my sass, my Trinidadian flair, and ended up being the first black woman to come in the top 5 by placing second runner-up. I say that simply to say again that we really do need to see ourselves out there. And while we have so many people here who are willing to shake the ground, because I shake the ground not only in the classroom, I'm also a Calypsonian. So I have did songs still colonial, a prayer for freedom, education versus schooling. These are songs in my repertoire. No, I'm not going to sing. But it sends messages. That's my way of disrupting the peace. And I liked what he said, because there are a lot of like-minded persons in the room. But what we need to do is get together, because right now, each like-minded person who wants to disrupt that education system, just like me, we're working as individuals. So how do we organize ourselves so that we are not twigs, but a bundle? Right? So I promise to be short, because I know, like yesterday, we went way over time. But it is indeed something to think about, and the fact that the conversation has started is important. And everyone being here, we all need to somehow, I don't know what's going to happen next, but keep this going. So thank you very much.
Okay, so we have heard from our attendees, our participants. I am just going to say Atalia's question is up for one panelist to grab to say something too, and then I need to close. No panelists is going to. Gillian wanted to say something. There's your opportunity.
It was kind
We're
of.
not repeating no question, you know.
No. But there was an issue of innovation versus tradition.
Yeah.
And I think I forgot your name, but not just you, but also you.
Danielle.
Yes, Danielle. You had a question about something new for you to consider. So what I wanted us to consider is if we think that agriculture is better than hunter-gatherer life. And this may sound ridiculous, but unless we turn that equation in our heads, we will never respect African people. We will never respect the information and the things that create the balance between innovation and tradition. And part of it is what everybody in this room keeps referring to. We have wrong information. Agriculture is a demonstration of a failure of society to be able to be successful hunter-gatherers. Let's say that again. If you fail as hunter-gatherers because you have overfished, you have overpopulated, you have gone where you should not have gone, you have not listened to nature, then you have to resort to agriculture. And that analogy, I think we need to take with all the innovation that we consider progress. Is it progress? Or is it a sign of a failure? Because if you had to choose to eat the fruit of the land without ever having a job, without ever having to turn soil, with being able to go, as I did as a child in Tobago, and drop a line and pick out a fish every 20 seconds, where now my cousins have to almost go to Grenada to catch a fish, you will understand the intelligence of a hunter-gatherer system, which is used in an insulting way repeatedly. And it wasn't really hunter-gatherer because they were managing forests in a very sophisticated fashion, and they continue to do that in Africa and in South America. And so how do you take what you think is tradition, such as hunter-gatherer, which feels backward, when really that is the sophisticated version of innovation instead of what you are being taught is innovation? And there is no way we can cover this, even if that's all we spoke about today. You need to go and do your research. When you were converted from hunter-gatherer to agriculture, who benefited? Whose mismanagement made you have to turn to it? Who came and saw you and said demeaning things? We can conquer this with a small army about the hunter-gatherers. They are happy people. So go home and do your research, because I'm going to stop there. But until we respect what we call hunter-gatherers and understand that agriculture is a failure of intelligence, of community, of science, of spirituality, we will not be able to respect Africans.
People.
So that is my contribution.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so, and that makes for a closing comment. I am just going to repeat that I am thankful to have been given this opportunity to do this. It was just an idea. I threw it at Zakia, and we didn't have the bandwidth to do it. I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to add it to the thing, because just as Shani was saying, like-minded people need to come in a space and marinate. It's not the answer, but it's the flare that creates the light for the possibility. And so I wanted it recorded, so at least other people are going to hear about it, so it doesn't stay here alone. And you know what has happened? Guyana wants to do one. Tobago wants to do one, and St. Lucia wants to do one. So I was like, wow. My friend Adrian Auger said if we can synopsize it into a package, he is going to get a screening done. And then I will go there and speak to other people who are thought leaders and have a conversation there with the viewing of this, and the same thing in Guyana. And Dr. Soyafat Angus also called me and said she is going to facilitate it coming to Tobago. Okay? Huh? Yeah, well, that's part of our duty through our Basel Convention there. That's why we have the information, and we're going to create packages of it for it to be palatable to get it in small doses, as well as package it into a shoe. So that's part of the process. Yeah. I have pitched this idea not only for this. No. I am talking about, I've pitched the idea for this continuously because I feel that this is something I can kind of steward, because I use my leverage to get some of the things here. I have to thank the people. I have to close by thanking Queen's Hall absolutely facilitated us. Absolutely facilitated us. This room is lit for this. This is not turn on the light. Took quite a while. This room was sounded for this. And it took quite a while. It wasn't that they just put a speaker there. There were tests run over a period. They were very meticulous. They brought me into the process. Do you like this here? Is this warm enough here? How is this song sounding there? Wow. It was very collaborative. None of it is accidental. The seating and the arrangement the NCC provided. The possibility of doing it, ESCTT allowed me to. And so I'm very, very... Yes, and are we going to have a moment for Zakia to say something? Yes. So I am saying that I am grateful, as I mentioned yesterday, that my speakers concurred. I didn't write them a letter formally 3 months ago saying I'm going to do a talk, and they responded to me. I use my leverage if it is that. Gillian, and you're in a panel, yes, was her answer. Yeah. As she told me in the backstage, as long as you ask me, it's yes. I call Lisa, it's the same thing. Robert, my brother, well, BCRC, Camille. So I use that, and if that has weight, therefore I think I can steward this, because all the panels said, in fact, they closed yesterday, almost bringing me to tears to say, we respect you. Yeah. And that's why we're here. I was like, woo. And it was such a not cross-cultural, but cross-disciplinary panel in the last 3 days. Really, really, I feel proud of myself. I hardly ever say that. I am a self-bashing person. Yeah. You ought to get it, yeah. Oh God, I ain't cut it now, girl. It's the time yesterday. Yesterday we had a situation that went on, and my duty today was to curb that. And we still went off. We still, yeah.
By an hour and 11 minutes.
Yeah. So I'm allowing Zakia Uzoma Wadada, the executive director of the Emancipation Committee, to make closing remarks.
Yes, I'm not sure if that's what I want to do, but I really want to express my sincere appreciation to Richard for facilitating this kind of interaction between ourselves, among ourselves. I want to thank all of those who agreed, including myself at short notice. Zakia, tomorrow morning, tomorrow you have to be on the panel. That's how Richard does it. So I know the stress.
Yes,
so
we want you to stand for filmic purposes.
For what?
We have to.
Filmic purposes.
Yes.
Right. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for being part of this important discussion. And what I want to suggest, Richard, is that we need to take the conversation where it needs to be. which is in our communities. We need to think about how we can do that. How can we get some of these same minds, you know, for us to really sit with the persons who need to have this discussion, whose consciousness needs to be raised. We try through our own way. We do community meetings once a month, you know, we even do it online. But, you know, these things, Philip, everybody wants to get together. I've been bringing people together for many, many years. And we come together for the first time. By the second or third meeting, everybody started to get tired and move on. So this sense of wanting to be together is something that is really, really very hard to motivate and to keep, to sustain. I'm sure all of us who have tried this understand that. But we have to go to the communities, at least even if we have to have the discussions and sort of hope to inspire them. So that's one of the things I wanted to suggest, even as we want to share it, you know, in different islands and so on. I think we should also figure out how do we take it to our communities. You know, and I just want to say to my sister, which is a sister, my sister here, who looks very much like a cousin of mine, you look very much like my cousin Cheryl, that please do not judge the work of the Emancipation Support Committee by something we did not say, or a comment we did not make. We are very strategic about what we say, when we say it, and why we say it. Because sometimes talk brings more talk, and not talk that is of value to our people. Every time we talk, it is to bring value to something, to add knowledge, to add a different... No, sister, we'll talk afterwards. I just wanted, because I think I have a responsibility to my organization, not to me generally, because people who know me and who know us know what we do. You may not know all that we do. So all I'm just asking that we are not judged because we did not make a comment on something that you thought we should have commented on. You know? So I just want to thank Richard again for this continued efforts, and we look forward to 2027, and also to you all coming to EWAAFRIKA. Yep. Yes, that's the important thing. We need to be in EWAAFRIKA on Sunday, all right? So that we can continue to be empowered. Help us to continue to be empowered to do the work that we continue to do. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
One thing I want to say, that show is an important show, but it's hardly resourced with crew. So if you're willing to volunteer to make sure the backstage works, find Richard or me or Camille, right? So the show can have resource of persons. It's not a paying work. Yes. Thanks. A problem. Yeah.
Well, you have to come now. Yeah, but my head will be so filled, so you have to be just as you come here to push yourself. Because when the show gets closer, my head is full.